William Byron signs a multi-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports. Toyota's David Wilson talks about that 2016 Homestead Miami finish. And Matt Kenseth is a first ballot NASCAR Hall of Famer. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove on the Go. We're here just about 45 minutes or so away from Darlington Raceway. Throwback weekend is here. The trucks race tonight, Xfinity tomorrow, and then Cup on Sunday. If you missed it, yesterday we reacted to pretty much all of the Cup Series throwback schemes, as well as a few of my favorite truck and Xfinity ones, so be sure to check that video out. But today we're talking NASCAR news, and this week has been full of it, especially yesterday. Let's begin with William Byron. Yesterday, Byron and Hendrick Motorsports announced that the two had agreed on a 3-year contract extension, keeping Byron in that 24 car through 2025. Byron said in a statement, "I'm so thankful to continue racing for Mr. H, Jeff, and Hendrick Motorsports. They've supported me through my path to the Cup Series and the growth process. Now with the team we've built together, I'm excited to keep pursuing race wins and playoff success. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season and the years to come." William Byron is only 24 years old, still one of the youngest drivers in the Cup Series, but he's in the middle of a breakout season of sorts. He's already got 2 wins on the season. He's emerged as one of the championship frontrunners, and really the last couple years we've seen immense growth in William Byron. Since they teamed him up with his old Truck Series crew chief Rudy Fugle, Byron's upward trajectory has steepened. Like last year, I know he only won 1 race, but I remember early last year he had a streak of 11 straight top 10s. He hasn't been quite as consistent this season, but again, he does have those 2 wins, first multi-win season of his young career. This works out great for both Byron and Hendrick Motorsports. In a way, this is Byron's second contract, but he's still ascending. So if you're Hendrick Motorsports, you know you're signing a guy who I think still has room to grow. We have not hit his ceiling yet. And in fact, I don't even think we'll reach Byron's prime during this contract. Like 2025, William Byron will be what? 28 years old at the end of that season. I feel like a NASCAR driver's prime really isn't until their very late 20s or early 30s. So if Byron continues to ascend the way we expect, Hendrick Motorsports may have their guy for a long, long time. And honestly, we'll talk about this in a second. Hendrick Motorsports has a lot of guys right now. This contract times out well for Byron for another reason as well. The current TV contracts with NBC and Fox expire at the end of the 2024 season, and I was reading Jeff Gluck's 12 Questions with Kyle Larson this week on The Athletic, and Larson said that he expects the next TV contract to actually allocate maybe more money to the teams and, as a result, the drivers. Obviously, those negotiations are in the earliest stages, so we have no idea exactly what NASCAR's next TV deal will look like, but Larson sounds optimistic. That's Byron's Hendrick teammate, of course. So this may time out well for Byron. By the time he's due for another contract, his 3rd contract, right before theoretically his prime, the business model may look a little better for drivers. So this is a great deal, I think, for William Byron. Obviously, we don't know exactly what he's getting paid, what his incentives look like, etc., but he's locked in with one of the best teams for the rest of this year, obviously, and at least 3 more years after. So now I want to talk about Hendrick Motorsports, because yes, Hendrick Motorsports has a few drivers now that you could argue is the guy going forward. Like, in other sports, every team wants that one young superstar that they can build around. In football, you want a great young quarterback that you can build a culture around, that you can rely on for years and years to come to take you to the promised land. In the NBA, you need a big superstar that can anchor your offense, anchor the defense. And in NASCAR, teams work a little bit differently, but every team wants to have a couple of guys they can count on year in and year out. And right now, Hendrick Motorsports not only has that, they simultaneously have one of the youngest driver lineups in the NASCAR Cup Series. It's all good for Hendrick. It's literally 2 thumbs up right now. Their current driver lineup of Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Alex Bowman won 17 out of 36 points-paying races last year. That's just under half the races. And this year, we're 11 races in. They're continuing that ratio. They've won 5 out of 11. Again, almost half. These guys are winning practically half the races, and they're all under the age of 30. And they're all under contract for at least a couple more years. Chase Elliott signed an extension recently. He's locked in with Hendrick through 2027. Byron now 2025. And Bowman and Larson are locked in at least through the end of next season. Compare that to some of their contemporaries, if you will. Right now, Stewart-Haas Racing is kind of in shambles. They took a big step backwards last year, and maybe they've taken a small step in the right direction this year, but they've got a lot of young drivers. One of them, Cole Custer, doesn't seem to be working out. Harvick's on the brink of retirement. Almirola is about to retire. SHR is not in a great spot. Joe Gibbs Racing has a lot of questions right now. Both Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. are not under contract for next season. Now, there's a good chance at least one or probably even both of them will come back next year, but we don't know for sure. Penske just swapped out Brad Keselowski, a veteran championship driver, for a young rookie who, yes, did win the Daytona 500 this year, but still is a work in progress, has a lot of room to grow. Joey Logano even hasn't won a race now in over a year. Todd Gordon retired, remember that. Look around the Cup Series, Hendrick Motorsports is obviously the best team right here, right now, but I think over the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, they're poised to be the best team in NASCAR, and I don't think it'll be that close. We joke every year, what if Gibbs gets all 4 of their cars in the Championship 4? What if Hendrick? What if SHR? I think Hendrick's going to do it at some point in the future. I think Hendrick Motorsports will sweep all 4 Championship 4 spots. Maybe that's an outlandish prediction, but I'm feeling outlandish this morning. I'm jet lagged or something. I don't know. I just wouldn't be shocked. It's very hard to do, I know, but their cars are really good and their drivers are young, and pretty much all of them, I think, are still ascending. That's the scary part. Happy for William Byron getting this deal. Happy for Hendrick Motorsports. I think they have to be happy signing a young, up-and-coming driver who's still winning races in the here and now. I think this is a great deal for all parties involved. Hendrick is in a tremendous spot going forward. Now, let's talk about another team, another manufacturer. I mentioned The Athletic earlier, but earlier today, Jordan Bianchi, writer for The Athletic, posted a Q&A he did with Toyota's, or TRD's, David Wilson. Of course, he's the head of that program. We've talked about him many times on this show. And of course, this week at Darlington is Toyota's 1500th race in NASCAR. And so Wilson was being asked just general questions about Toyota's tenure in the sport. And he was asked what one moment was you look back on and you wish that had gone differently, and Wilson talked about the 2016 Homestead finale. This race, of course, has been talked about to death, but this is the race where Carl Edwards, driving a Toyota, looked to be in position to win his first ever NASCAR Cup Series championship, when on a late race restart, Logano, another championship contender, got a good run. Edwards came down to try and block. It was too late. Wrecked. Edwards retired from the sport just a couple months after. Anyway, David Wilson Toyota talked about that incident. Here's what he said, because he's not so focused on the restart itself. He's focused on what transpired before the restart. The one thing that haunts me to this day, and there's nothing even close, is Homestead 2016 and Carl Edwards' championship loss. That was his championship. He was going to win the championship, but there was a BS caution that was thrown at the end of the race because the race more or less had been decided. What David Wilson is talking about there, with about 25 laps to go, Carl Edwards had passed Kyle Busch for the championship lead on track and was pulling away when the 32 car, who was, I'd guess, many laps down at the time, had a flat tire and slowed a little bit on the track, limping to pit road. NASCAR then threw a caution, which led to a late race restart, which led to that big wreck and incident that I was already talking about. But David Wilson was not too happy with NASCAR's decision to throw the caution for the 32 car. And I went back and rewatched the incident, and no, it did not warrant a caution, I think, by any objective metric. He had a flat tire, didn't seem clear that there was debris anywhere, the car didn't spin out, he slowed down a little, immediately went down to the apron, was out of the way. By all accounts, I don't think that deserved a caution. NASCAR was definitely looking for a reason to tighten the field back up for one final crazy rock'em sock'em restart, and so they were quick on the trigger, something NASCAR has done many times in the past and still occasionally does to this day. Anyway, here's what David Wilson said about that incident even further. Here's my silver lining. We raised holy hell with the sanctioning body over that incident, and I believe if you were to plot on a graph the change in treatment of the way the sport was regulated during the course of the race, you could trace it to that singular event. That part's super interesting. I think we all assumed that, yeah, when teams felt like NASCAR made a bad call, they go and question it. They go call them out, they argue with them, they talk to them. Wilson seems to believe that their discussion with NASCAR after Homestead might have actually done some good, and he may not be entirely wrong. A couple months after that Homestead race, early 2017, before the season started, NASCAR introduced stage racing and stage cautions. And since stages have been introduced, you'll notice a significant decline in the number of quote-unquote phantom debris cautions that are being thrown. Everyone knows that back in the day, NASCAR would occasionally throw a yellow for an incident that probably didn't deserve it just because they wanted to tighten the field back up. It had gotten really strung out, it was boring, not good for TV, not good for fans in the stands. You're never going to please everybody, but NASCAR wanted to keep the racing as action-packed as they could. Now, we still get some wacky cautions to this day, and NASCAR still, in some subtle ways, tries to not manipulate the end of the races so much as they try to put drivers and teams in the box they want them in. They're not trying to let a certain guy win, but they often still make decisions in favor of closer, more action-packed racing. It's still very much a frustration amongst many fans, and I'm sure many competitors to this day, but it's happened less, I think, it's safe to say, since the implementation of stages. And it sounds like we could thank Toyota for raising hell over the Carl Edwards and Homestead finish, possibly for that. I just thought that was super interesting. I encourage you to go subscribe to The Athletic and check out the full article. Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi do great work over there always, but just thought that quote, I saw Gluck actually spotlighted it today on Twitter, but that quote was super interesting in amidst all the others about Toyota. Now, lastly, before we go, and yeah, the sun keeps peeking in and out of the clouds, getting in my face, but otherwise, the lighting looks pretty good in here. This is better than my studio lighting. Whoa. Before I go, I ranted about it a couple days ago, but on Wednesday afternoon, the NASCAR Hall of Fame voting committee officially voted on the class of 2023, and Matt Kenseth, Kirk Shelmerdine, and Herschel McGriff received the most votes. Matt Kenseth received 69% yes votes on the modern era ballot to lead the way, which means Matt Kenseth, the 39-time Cup Series winner, the 2003 champion, 2-time Daytona 500 winner, he's going into the NASCAR Hall of Fame next year on his first try. I don't want to rant and rave about it too much more, but this past Wednesday night on our weekly live stream, I did rant about it for a couple minutes. I just want to play you that clip because I feel like I said it well there, and if I try to repeat myself, it's just not going to come out right. So as a lifelong Matt Kenseth fan, here are my thoughts on Matt Kenseth being voted into the Hall of Fame on his first try. I knew from the moment I started watching racing after he'd already won his championship. I tweeted this earlier today, but I started watching racing a little bit on TV, but I really got into NASCAR by playing NASCAR Thunder 2004. And I initially would always play as Matt Kenseth because it was this paint scheme, actually, the one I just held up. And I just thought it was great. I loved the yellow and black. It stood out to me. So I always drove as this car. And then later on, started following him more closely and just came to like him as a driver. Very down to earth, focused on racing, didn't dwell on drama. He was just out there to do his job to the best of his abilities, and he happened to be really, really good at it. And I always admire the consistency in all sports. Nothing frustrated me more than a streaky athlete, a streaky player. I liked someone who you could count on, who you could depend on, who you knew was going to make your team better, who you knew was going to help you win on any given day. And for the vast majority of his career, that was Matt Kenseth. So, what else can you say? But his stats obviously speak for themselves. 39 Cup Series wins, 21st all time. He's tied for 21st all time. I think he was 19th or 20th when he actually, kind of retired from Joe Gibbs Racing for the first time, but still 21st all time. He won a bunch of Xfinity races. He's a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. He obviously won a Cup Series championship. Also beat Dale Earnhardt Jr. Sorry guys, in 2000 to win Rookie of the Year. He won a Southern 500. He won the Coke 600 as a rookie. He finished second at Indianapolis. In 2020, he finished second. He finished top 5 several other times as well. I don't know if he had any other seconds, but he was so close to sweeping all the crown jewels in his career. I'd say that it's nice to see Kenseth finally getting some recognition, but I feel like we've said that a lot about him the last couple of years. I think people are beginning to really appreciate Matt Kenseth, and some of those younger fans are starting to know Kenseth for his on-track success as opposed to just that Joey Logano incident in 2015, which on that point, I am glad that did not keep him out of the Hall of Fame on his first try. Like, if you look at the stats, you stacked him up against all the other modern era nominees this year. I think it was pretty clear. Anyone with 2 eyes could say Kenseth was a top 2. He was worthy of one of the top 2 picks. But I'm glad that the voters did not hold that one fluky deal that was in many ways encouraged by the CEO of NASCAR at the time against him. So I'm happy that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I always knew he'd go into the Hall of Fame, but it's really cool to be able to say he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was a first ballot Hall of Famer just recently. I think it's safe to say Jimmy Johnson will be a first ballot Hall of Famer next year. And those were always the guys Kenseth was racing against week in, week out, and was contending for championships alongside. So as a longtime fan, someone who's been a fan of Matt Kenseth since 04, 05, who never got to see him win a race in person outside of a super late model race in Wisconsin a couple of years ago, I'm stoked. I'm thrilled. This is really, really cool. So appreciate y'all giving me a second to rant and rave about it. But
well, yeah, you're wearing the getup. So I was like,
you had to put up with me, Darian, and Danny all geek fanboying over Junior making it last year.
Junior made it. He made it.
Junebug.
He made it, bro. But
I did not script that Denny delivers, but I'm glad it came across so well. Appreciate you guys watching this video. That's going to do it. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you make of William Byron's extension? Toyota discussing the 2016 Miami incident. Matt Kenseth, Kirk Shelmerdine, Herschel McGriff going into the Hall of Fame. Do you have any issues, any questions there? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. That's going to do it. Again, if you're going to be at Darlington this weekend, especially on Sunday, stop by the Roxor booth just outside the racetrack in the Midway Zone. I'll be be doing a meetup at 1:30 p.m. So hope to see a bunch of you guys there. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. And a big thank you, as always, to my amazing Patreon supporters. I will see you all at the track this weekend. Lots of good stuff. Throwback weekend. I am hyped. My first throwback weekend I've attended. Gonna be a fun time. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you again very soon.